On-ears are particular.
Yeah.
If you didn't like center them, you couldn't get, that's max volume right in the middle. If you moved them a little bit, you couldn't hear it. The highs went away. It was instant.
Mm-hmm. You move it back a little bit and it's just hitting your earlobe,
It's just like a phone.
Man, that CanJam show in New York City was crazy busy.
Yes.
We were busy.
Probably the busiest.
It was probably the busiest.
Busiest CanJam I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little too busy.
The seat, there was never, ever a time where someone wasn't sitting down. Most of the day, there were people in line for both of our systems. It was crazy. When you got 3-4 people deep, that's crazy.
A lot of people had to keep coming back. It's like, nope. I'm like, well, you're going to have to get in there at some point.
Yeah.
You're never going to get to.
I started knocking people over.
Yeah.
But anyway, we talked to a lot of good people there. It was great to see everybody. It's been a while. And, man, people were enthusiastic. It was great crowd. And we got people wanted to get our photographs with them.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I was like I don't know, every hour or so, I was like, wow, I didn't know how popular we were. It was kind of cool, though. It was cool. People were thanking us for doing these videos, and we appreciate you guys. So thanks for giving us the great words. We appreciate that because we do work on this. We work on this. It's work,
It can be.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So we try to give you the best information we can. On that note, I was talking to one of the customers, one of the visitors, and explaining to him how the AB1266 works, where you can move it about your head, it doesn't clamp, and you can actually change the acoustic of the headphone by pushing it forward, back, up, down, what have you. And I said, by the way, you could do that with any headphone. I said planars maybe a little more so, but I think all of them would vary in different ways. And he's like, I didn't know you could do that. And I've run into this before, but we never really talked about it, where you take your headphone and move it about your head and change maybe the vocal positioning or a certain instrument like a piano or something. It changes the acoustic of the headphone.
Yeah, I would think it'd be mainly dependent on how big the ear pads are, really, how much you can move it around. Like 1266 pretty big, so you get a lot more range of motion forward to back and everything.
Yeah.
So on-ear would be different, obviously.
The bigger the interior, the more move-about room you got. Yeah.
There's probably a pretty large range in how much variation you get from headphone to headphone. And I would imagine some headphones very minor, if anything, and other headphones can be very major. 1266 is probably one of the more considerable variations you could get, and that's largely by design. But one thing people don't seem to consider is a lot of times how a headphone fits on your head can have a dramatic impact in the performance of the headphone. You can't necessarily treat the headphone as an absolute, like it'll emit the same sound no matter how it fits and sits, because generally speaking, you're enclosing or sealing the one side of the driver with your ear and your head. So that has a pretty large impact over how much airspace is in there and what kind of reflections and what kind of acoustic perspective the driver is facing.
Well, you picture most people when they take a pair of headphones, and I mean, all headphones clamp with the exception of the AB1266. Well, the Jekyll and Float was way back in the day. There's a few headphones in the world, in history that have, but bottom line is 99.99% of headphones, you go like that and you're done. And you think nothing about moving them around after they clamp, other than for comfort, I guess. Maybe if it's uncomfortable, you might, but otherwise, I think for the most part, people just kind of put them on and don't think nothing about it. So you could actually get variation every time you put them on your head.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we do.
Well, you probably do.
Yeah. Right.
It's just a question of how much,
And you may not think nothing of it, but it's happening.
Well, especially if you've been using the same headphone for like a decade, you pretty much put them on the same every time, usually.
Yeah.
You're used to how they feel.
We are creatures of habit.
Yeah, so I guess over time with the same thing, you get more consistent.
Yeah.
We also get ear pad wear and things like that, which will cause an impact in how the headphone actually fits, which is one of the reasons why changing ear pads, especially after your ear pads are worn, can be a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just even comfort. It's the fact that all ear pads are made of foam, and foam compresses over time.
Right.
So it depends on usage, If you use it every day, 8 hours a day, expect to wear them out a lot quicker.
Sure.
If you throw them in a drawer and listen to them once a month, they'll last forever pretty much. So it depends on the usage case for individuals. But yeah, it's true. I mean, you get variation with even from ear pad to ear pads, you could have variations. batches to batches, you get an ear pad. Even if it's the same ear pad that the manufacturer's always had, 2 years later, it might not be exactly the same. It's a piece of foam cut in some manner that could vary by a few millimeters. So even changing it up you never know where you're going to go with it, So anyway, yeah. Bottom line, though, is that's the whole concept here, is that try moving the headphone about on your head. Move it back a little bit, push it forward or up, and, while you're listening to music.
It doesn't take much, really.
Oh.
Especially when you see someone else do it. It's like just a...
Yeah, tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could also fiddle with the vertical adjustment, things like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may find where you normally have it set may be the best from your perceptual comfort, but on certain headphones, it could have a big impact on the actual sonics if you fiddle with it a little bit. So I think it's interesting to try either way, see what kind of impact it has. On some headphones, it's dramatic. On others, not so much, but especially on planar magnetics. They tend to be a bit more sensitive to pressure, to dampening. And how it fits and sits on your head is going to change to some extent how much volume is inside the ear cup.
Well, and also, you're thinking about it, your ear has kind of a center zone, right? Where, it's the whole pinna is picking up stuff, but the driver itself is emitting different frequencies in different portions of the diaphragm. The outer part of a diaphragm doesn't do much for bass because it's pinned by an adhesive. The middle portion does more to the bottom. And so you think about it, you could change, how your ear picks up that sound relative to the speaker.
Yeah, I guess it's easy way to explain it would be, it's kind of like everybody's probably done it on like a two-way speaker. You put your ear, closer to the tweeter, on your sides, you move it down.
Yeah, right.
But the further away you get a mix of both, and it's kind of the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's how the spectrum blends to you.
Yeah.
Whether you want a little more highs, you get more in line with the tweeter relative to your level.
Yeah.
And if you want less of that more mid-range type sound, you would go scrunch yourself down a little bit, go toward the bass driver on a 2-8. It's true, or even a 2-8 four standard, any speaker that has multiple drivers.
Yeah.
And it's not that that planars have multiple drivers, just that different portions of the diaphragm will have different bandwidth capabilities. So it's it's not full range. The whole thing, the driver's full range, but each individual spot on the thing isn't doing the same.
It's a really complicated system because in a lot of headphones like these, especially, the driver's quite massive compared to the size of the ear cup and the frame housing and stuff. So the positioning can have some impact over your perception of certain frequencies.
Like sound staging.
Yeah,
imaging.
You're going to get a gradient across the driver where different areas of the diaphragm are a little bit more efficient at producing certain frequencies. So it's not like it's a wild difference, but you're going to hear more or less the average of that. But if you shift the positioning, you could get minor nuance. You could get some differences in the actual, the detection of your ear from the actual emission of the headphone.
Come to think of it, actually, if the driver's smaller, like, it's probably even more particular that you get centered on it because now you have very little range.
Well, if it was really big, it'd be a whole different thing.
Well, I'm thinking, like a speaker.
Well,
or
they
something,
both impact something.
like near field with speakers. Like I'm thinking, remember the jet blue ones, those little on-ears they used to give you? On-ears are particular.
Yeah.
If you didn't center them, you couldn't get, that's max volume right in the middle. If you moved them a little bit, you couldn't hear it. The highs went away. It was instant. Mm-hmm. And it's just probably because the driver is probably 5 millimeters.
Well, you move it back a little bit and it's just hitting your earlobe,
Yeah. It's just like a phone.
You're almost blocking the sound.
It's like a phone. Phones
with the little the
Right.
slit on most modern phones. You move it in the wrong place and, you can barely hear it, or you change the frequency response considerably because it's like hitting your ear somewhere.
Yeah. Now that you're not so much changing the way the soundstage is occurring.
Different.
You're completely just wiping out hearing it. but it's kind of similar to that.
That's an extreme example.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a headphone, it's not likely to be quite that significant. But we're talking about minor enough differences here that they are typically quite noticeable, but also not like headphone to headphone. It's probably not going to be night and day, but it's going to be something that you very much can notice if you shift it around.
I would say it would be completely dependent on each individual model of headphone. It just depends on the way the driver's built and whatever kind of structure they have in front of the driver. We happen to have 7-slot pattern on all our drivers, so it's going to offer a different acoustic than someone that's using a totally different pattern,
Right.
So
Well, I was just thinking where you might run into big variation is if it's multi-driver headphones. You know, if like they have like a separate tweeter or something in them.
yeah, right.
Because then the positioning would be probably more critical.
Yeah. Well, what's the one that had the different trace patterns on the one top?
Oh, yeah. Well, Empyrean.
The Empyrean, yeah. So, I mean, that would be certainly vertical, horizontal would change the perspective relative to your ear,
Yeah.
you know?
Presumably they mitigated that, though, with the sheer size of the ear cup.
Yeah. Well, it's still vary. There's no way to
Oh,
avoid it.
of course.
Because the driver's just so significantly big, you know? Yeah.
Nothing's ever perfect. There's
You
always
know.
this gray area in between perfection and reality.
Yeah, right. So, you know, anyway, that's something we want give everyone a little bit of homework.
It's a consideration.
Next time you wear your headphones, move them about your head and let us know how it changes your perspective on what you hear in the soundstage, the acoustics, and so on. And let us know in the comments. It'd be cool. You know, because we don't really play with other headphones. So it'd be kind of cool to see, like, I mean, some of these headphones might go, like, you know, you move it forward or backwards and go, whoa, the vocals just really are at me now versus, you know, recessed. Or, I mean, you could change the perspective of a piano by doing this. So, you know, different instruments.
Well,
So,
the cool
you know.
part is it's easy to do
Yeah,
and it's free.
it's free.
Yes.
Yeah, you may find that we just made your headphones sound 1,000% better.
Well, I don't know about 1,000.
That probably not 1,000.
10?
You see some headphones, they have angled drivers or drivers that are shifted. Like the drivers are shifted in Diana.
Right.
There's all kinds of reasoning for it. But yeah, this is primarily the goal. You're trying to get a more uniform experience for all head shapes, ear sizes, and things like that.
A little more frontal, a frontal perspective,
Yeah.
as well as you can do on a headphone versus speakers where it's always going to have the perspective of you're behind so many rows behind this front stage, right? Because the speaker is always in front of you by 8 feet, 12 feet, whatever.
Well, unless it's
So
multi-channel.
It's always so the sound is always in front of you. Where headphones, the best you could do is you're in with the band, you're immersed with the band. But well, that's the thing. Like the 1266 can do too. Like you can tow it in and out. You can actually change front rear perspective on that headphone because it doesn't clamp on you, but not dramatically.
Not as
but
much as speakers.
Not as much
obviously.
as speakers. You're not going to make it sound like it's 8 feet in front of you.
No.
But to the ear, you know, it's like even doubling the distance is still more of a frontal perspective.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So it's kind of neat in that respect. But anyway, yeah, try it out. Let us know, everyone. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. We got good stuff coming. Pretty soon we're going to be talking more about measurements.
Oh, boy.
Take care.